All right, here we go. We're back for round number two. Everybody, come on back in. Welcome to the Jason Elliott Show. Here, I'm sorry, I can give you some music. We were having some technical difficulties. I still don't know what the deal is, but it's all right. Come on in, come on in, come on in, come on in. Let's see who's coming in, coming in, coming in. All right, Jonathan is back, and our guest, Yoad's here. Yoad, let's give this a go. All right. I'm going to accept your invitation to come on in. Let's give it a go. Well, okay, there it goes. All right.
Yes.
Oh, thank goodness. I was getting a little bit nervous there.
No, so is I.
I was like, oh, shoot, we should have done a practice round. All right, hey, everybody. Okay, so we are back online. Finally good. Sorry you don't get all the fun little intro to this episode of the Jason Elliott Show. So for anybody just joining us, we had a little bit of an issue on the first round, but that's live for you. That's how it goes. So I'm going to pull this up so I can see over here. Welcome, everybody, to the first show of March 2018. I'm super, super excited. So we have with us tonight, I'm going to slide you over so I can actually see your whole face, because it's a beauty. All right. So we have with us tonight, all the way from daggone 2 a.m. in Tel Aviv, we've got Yoad Shiran with us. I didn't butcher that too much, did
No. That's okay. Hi, everybody.
I? Just a little bit. All right. Well, so for anybody who didn't know, at least here, the month of March is all about reading. And so I said, well, daggone, we should have a show about reading. And I'm kind of a reader, kind of not, but what I always loved was children's books. And so we have a guest who is an illustrator for these books. So I won't steal your thunder too much, but before we get into all the good juiciness of being an illustrator, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Kind of what do you like to do? Give us like a personal peek into the life of Yoad.
Well, hello again, and good evening to you all. Good night here. I'm from Tel Aviv, Israel. My name is Yoad. And as you said, I'm a children's books illustrator. This is my part-time job. I have also a regular job, same as everybody else. And I do this type of job for, as you know, the soul, and for make me personally the happiest that I can be. So I'm 29 years old. I've been illustrating books for the past 5 years. I've just rounded up the 10th book that I illustrated, and I'm currently working on the next one. I lived in Israel my entire life. I was born in Eilat, which is the southest city in Israel, residing by the Red Sea, and lived in one of the deserts in Israel called the Judah Desert for the past 12 years afterwards. A very isolated, small community place, just to yourself and the wildlife and the desert. And I think this is what makes me start drawing and painting since I was 2 years old. Ever since, I kept drawing and painting, and this is what became of me eventually. And well, as I said, I've been illustrating for the past 5 years. The books are kind of my way to make my imprint on the world around those ages of between finish up the high school and starting off college or university, whatever you go to study, or starting your major job. You kind of think with yourself what you want to do with your life. So I didn't want to do initially the children's books or the illustrating. I was actually learning biotechnology in high school, and then afterwards I went to the army, same as everybody else in Israel, and I wanted to do an animator and to do animations. Eventually, while I was learning, I decided that I think that my field will be the illustrations themselves and not going the extra mile of making them in animation. But I guess we can get to this later.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's really great. Um, and also, just a heads up, there might be a slight delay. We'll work with it. It's okay.
That's okay.
And I will point out for anybody who did not realize, you have a microphone on and I do not. So I need to step up my game. So you've inspired me. This month, I'm going to get a microphone like that too.
Well, we actually need to thank my future husband, who actually also is a TV host and a singer and a model, and he has also his own web show and series, and he bought me his mic and gave me the idea.
Oh yeah, well that's awesome. Well, I say that is a great fiance to have. I I I commend that, and I'm glad that he lent it to you because now I'm gonna start wearing a microphone too. uh, and actually, with that answer, you already addressed one of the questions that somebody asked. Somebody asked if you're single, and no, he is not. I did just a little bit of creeping, and you have a very supportive, very lovely fiance. So congratulations to the two of you on that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm not single. I'm going to be happily married to a wonderful guy. Um, yeah, and yeah, we're very happy together, but thank you for anybody who asked.
Yeah. I there's always every single episode there's somebody who's going to ask that question, so we usually just get it out of the way. So back to the topic of hand then. So you've been drawing for quite some time, it sounds like. And you know that was it sounds like that was something that you kind of did as a kid, that you did sort of because you maybe didn't really have a whole lot of anything else to do. But has it always been a passion of yours? Has it always been an interest?
Well, yes, for several reasons. Well, as you said, there was nothing else to do, and it was right. I grew up in the 90s in an isolated place in a community. Maybe if anybody kind of know about Israel, there is small communities like a kibbutz, and mine was called a moshav, which is a small settlement for a bunch of people, no more than 200 families all living together, and this is what I grew up in, a sort of a bubble. So the drawing started actually thanks to my parents. They left me each morning in kindergarten. They went to work, mostly field works. The moshav, you basically grew flowers and vegetables and fruits, sort of dates and watermelons and melons and sunflowers and bell peppers, you name it. So they left me at kindergarten, but before they went, they always drew me a small picture of whatever it is
Aww.
they thought about, like a bird, a dinosaur, a shirt, and I was left there coloring the picture, and time by time I started drew the pictures for myself. And I guess that this is what made me go into this entire uh, art stage of my life that early. Um, After school, after kindergarten, you go back home, but there was no TV. Like
Mm-hmm.
usually in the 90s, I don't know how it was in America, but in Israel, there wasn't many channels, especially where I grew up in. There was like I guess 5 or 6 channels on TV. One of them was the community channel, and from time to time we sort of got it Cartoon Network into the broadcasting system. So sometime I was able to see cartoons and enrich my life with cartoons that everybody I guess grew up on. But we had, some sort of a official channel in Israel that later on added to him like a commercial channel, and there were broadcasting for children and some sort of cartoons or TV shows, and yeah, those stuff also helped encourage me to um, kind of expand my imagination forward and help me find, I guess, topics or um, figures or characters that interest me enough to try to draw them. For instance, I think now this is the 25th anniversary for Jurassic Park this year, and later on there will be
Yeah.
Jurassic World too. So I remember that I had a few stages in my life that I only drew one thing, and I had a stage where I only drew dinosaur till this day, by the way. But thanks to Jurassic Park, I started drawing dinosaurs, and when you draw each day two, three dinosaurs, eventually you catch up and you know how to draw them by yourself, and you practice without even knowing it.
Yeah. No, and I think it's really good to have that it's repetitive, so you repeat the same thing over and over, but every time that you repeat it, it's slightly different, or you learn something a little bit differently, and then that's where you get to learn kind of that practice. Um, I myself am not very artistic, but one thing that I learned how to draw was just an eye. Like that's the only thing I can do is like this section. It's just like the eye. But it starts with tracing or kind of like, repeating, and then all of a sudden you realize you're drawing them on your own. So that's cool, and I appreciate that it was dinosaurs because my boyfriend's favorite movie, well, one of his favorite movies is Jurassic Park, and so he's really excited about that. um, so you started out doing dinosaurs. Um, how did you go from just kind of copying what you saw on Jurassic Park to creating your own things and actually becoming then your own artist?
Well, as you said, you start by seeing something, and then your mind translates it to what you see inside here than what you see on the paper. So what you see on TV and what you will do on paper will be eventually two different things. In my opinion, this is
Mm-hmm.
some sort of a critical stage for an artist to first realize that what you see is not what you can make out of it, and
Ah.
you can do something for your own, although you took it from another place. So when I started drawing, my favorite was the Velociraptors. I drew them a lot of times. I remember taking the pictures from the newspaper because they were posters for the movie. There was one really popular one of the Velociraptors in the bushes, like smiling. So I took a paper, put it on the newspaper, and then started to draw the outline of what I saw. I drew it for several times just because I want to draw it and nothing, I was 4 or 5 at the time. So I didn't know exactly what I was doing aside from the fact that I know I was drawing. Later on, I
Ah.
later on I already had the vision of the outline of the animal. So I knew what to draw even without tracing it from the paper itself. And later on, I was already had a full figure in my mind, which I could like move and twist in a three-dimensional way. So I would know how it will look from each perspective. So
Yeah.
I knew from the friends and my family at the time, basically the friends of my family because I was little and my friends were little too. I knew this is something irregular that I can do that. So I wanted to continue with it. It made me feel special. So at the time that I was doing it, I started exploring this type of thing that I can do, and I got my very own first, I guess, hand. This is what we know how to call it. Like each illustrator, each artist has a special hand that you can recognize his work. So if
Yeah.
I go back to my work at the time, I can see, oh, definitely, I knew what I did there. I know how I pressed the marker or the pencil to get this type of line. So this is the very early stage that I guess you can see um, some sort of a technique, if you will, at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you practice each
And
day,
that's a pretty cool thing. Fine. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, 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 please.
No, I was just gonna say that's a really great thing. You know, to find your hand for an artist is, for a drawing artist is kind of like, for a singer to find like the style of music that is yours. You know, or like a speaker, a public speaker, to get up and find your story that really works, or like it's a similar feeling to just getting up in the morning and putting on an outfit and knowing that is your outfit, that's your look, it's your style. That's what it is to find your hand as an artist. And it's kind of like a turning point, because from there, everything that you do is yours.
This is correct. Now, by the years, I struggled with my line because you can have it at one point, you don't know you have it. You continue with your life, you continue drawing, and you lose it, and you need to find yourself again. So at the time, I was happy because I knew what I was doing, I was happy with it, and I was recognized by my work. So at the time, yes, but it doesn't feel as important back then, um, opposed to today, when I know that I have a certain style, a certain line that I work with, and I know to recognize my work, and I know that people can recognize my work. I guess since I'm older today, I know the importance. Back at the time, it was a hobby, a way to pass the time between chores till going to sleep, then going back to school, and so on. So,
That's all.
yeah.
So I want to ask you, because we have a couple of questions from people that are watching.
Mm-hmm.
First, I believe she is a friend of yours, Valerie Ann Lira, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Yeah. Hi, Valerie. Valerie says hello, gents, and she said you're beautiful, Jason. So thank you. But thanks for being here, Valerie. Appreciate it. And Chad, Stuart, Rusty, my brother Josh, who's also an artist, is here. Mary, John, Brennan, Zane, Christina. We got all kinds of people watching. And there are a couple people that have some questions. So while they're still here, I want to ask you a couple of things on their behalf, and just throw out there that if anybody else wants to ask questions, just comment below. That's what we're here to do. So Jess says, because you kind of talked a little bit about using animation and things like that, but Jess wants to know, do you enjoy freehand illustration using paper and pencil, or something more along the lines of computer illustration, so using technology to illustrate?
Well, hi, and I enjoy both very much. I don't have a favorite of mine while I'm working. The reason is that there is no replacement to the feel of drawing with a pencil and a paper. Nothing with the outcome, with the feel, with knowing what you need to do. Um, it, in my opinion, if you need to do something, do it first of all on paper. If you need it digitally,
Yeah.
you take it afterwards to the computer, because for me, this is the most secure way to ensure that what I see in here goes to the paper. Maybe because I have more experience with paper. I guess by the time that I will be 80, the illustrators of the future, if there will be any, could tell the difference. Now, digitally, I enjoy exploring methods that I know to do by hand, but I need to um, kind of cheat my way into making it, sorry, making it real. Sorry. And I'm not taking any sides from traditional way to new methods, but each of them has its own like importance to me. Most of the books that I do are drawn digitally. In the next 2 months, I guess, will be the new books that I illustrated. They are only published in. I'm sorry, but you can purchase them online by contacting the companies that sells them or contacting the writers themselves, and they will send it to you, or by Amazon. I guess some of them are there, but in the next 2 months there will be two new books that will be coming out that I drew entirely by hand, on paper, by acrylic colors, watercolors, and colored pencils. And they give some sort of a different dimension to a drawing. Yeah, I guess you put a bit more soul and a bit more effort to it, because once you make a line, you can go back. You can always
Yeah.
do Control Delete or Control Z and just go back. So each has its own, like, I guess when I'm going into work, I need to decide what I'm going to do. Depends, of course, what the writer tells me to do, but each has very own, well, benefits, I guess. So it's hard
Yeah.
to tell.
Yeah. Well, I would say I personally really like the pen to paper, the paintbrush to canvas, the whatever that might be. I love it. So I do have a growing collection of art. I love to collect original pieces of art, and there's something so magical to me about picking up a painting or finding a drawing and seeing where, like, maybe you've had to paint over something, or you've had to kind of erase something or try to camouflage it. And I know in books and publication, that's not really what you want. But in my art collection, I think it's so great to see that, because it kind of reminds us that, in life, we can have these, like, we can mess up and then keep going and come out with this beautiful thing at the end. So I am 100% in love with pen to paper, paintbrush to canvas. I think it really shows dedication and thought and talent. So you don't have to take sides, but as far as Jess is concerned, I prefer the real deal. um, and actually, Jess had a follow-up thought to that. She said that her daughter loves books. She's a year and a half old, and said that she really wants to say thank you for what you're doing. She said, with technology the way that it is in the world today, it's really nice to have still images for children to use their imagination. And I think many of us would echo that. So thank you for allowing that imagination to flourish, which makes me wonder, when you're working with an author or when you're working with a publisher to do a work, how do you combine the story that they want and the image that you want?
Well, thank you very much. I'm happy to help, and I'm happy to do my job, and I'm happy that people are enjoying it, because um, this is, to my belief, what I do best and what I can do the best. So I'm happy that people are responding to it that way. Regarding your question, I get into, I guess, corners sometimes between what I want to do and what I feel that would be the best for the book, with what the writers would like the book to be like. Now, when I get a new book from an author or from a publishing, I first of all talk with the writer themselves or with the author themselves, and would like to know what they think the book should be look like, because my job, according to what I think with them, is to take what they have inside their mind and put it on paper, or eventually on paper, regarding the last
Yeah.
question. So this is my most important job with them, to help them do what they cannot do, but what they contact me for. So I get into a conversation with them and talk about the book and about the characters and about the story behind the book, because lots of them have a story. For example, the last book that I finished illustrating, which I have it here, by the way.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
About it.
this is the last book that I finished. It's called Is Englishizing a Profession? Which, yeah, there isn't really a word to it, but the story tells about a kid in school that asks his mother what she does for a living, and what she does for a living is just take lyrics and translate them to different language. And
Hmm.
he asked her what she does because he saw that some children have doctor parents or parents who are cops, and he doesn't know what his mother does. And she helps them
Ah,
understand that translations are important as cure somebody or as save somebody from a robbery. And we talked about it, and with that specific author, she said to me, I don't have really much idea for what I want to do, so I'm gonna head and go with what you think that the book should be looked like. So for one suggestion, I said to her, why not make the children animals, or some of the figures animals, and combine people and animals together? So she said, this is a good idea, but I don't think it will catch up. And I wanted to do it very much, but eventually I said, okay, so let's think what we can do with it. So it is my obligation to take what they want to do, because the book is their baby. This is their project, and needless to say that making a book today, at least in Israel, is an expensive business. So if you're going to do it, you need to do it right.
yeah.
So I get you in conversation, I talk with them, and then we decide how we want to proceed regarding the way that the pictures should be look like, if they're hand-drawn or digitally drawn, and what kind of characteristics there will be. If it will be a comic book, it will be a dramatic look, if it will be a joyful colored book, or like a grain book. This is the process. I love to have the free hand to do whatever I want, because it gives me the way to be all over the place and take it to wild places. But eventually, I guess for me the best would be to have instructions and requests, because eventually they will be the most happy with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's great because it kind of highlights the importance of like Jess was saying earlier, your drawings give her kids, this image, but so can the words. And so when you pair them really well together, you've got your words and you've got your images, and that's really what makes the story come to life. So it really is a team effort, and I think that's really awesome. Um, so jumping down, so Valerie, am I saying that correctly? I hope. Um, I'm always afraid I'm going to butcher somebody's name. But she wants to know, when it comes to your stories and your inspiration, does it come from your family, your friends, your own childhood imaginations all coming to life, or does one aspect influence you more than another?
Well, all the answers are correct. In my books, I take inspiration from my family, my future husband, who is already in two different books, one as an adult, one as a child, which is
Oh,
not
that's
specifically
cute.
my husband, but he is inspired a character. The character has his characteristic. It has his curly hair, his blonde curly hair, bright eyes. It has his dog is in the book as well, My mother and father are on another book. My friends are in the second book that I illustrated, and the third one as well. Um, I take my inspiration whenever I can, wherever I can find it, whether it's with my family, my friends, or in fact, the city, the life in Israel. The upcoming book that I'm currently illustrating, and I'm just in the sketch phase of it, I took one of the main public areas in Tel Aviv, which is uh, one of the parks, which called Hayarkon, and it's a wide park that crosses Tel Aviv with a river and trees and lots of jogging roads and lots of bridges and parks and strollers, whatever. It's very green. It's very famous here. When you visit Tel Aviv, you always see it, and it's very, very acclaimed, at least in the Israeli vibe.
Yeah.
So I took it into the new book that I'm illustrating now. So it's wherever I can find it. If it's by buildings that I see, people I saw, um, one time a bigger person. I don't know how to say the word correctly. By the way, I'm sorry if I'm babbling or I have any spelling mistake or grammar mistakes.
Oh,
But I saw,
please.
yeah, but I saw one person on the street that I thought, okay, he has like a weird way of moving, a weird way of strolling around. So I just took a picture in my mind and then added it to a book. I don't know if you ever seen the book or if you will ever see the book, but I added him because he's, I don't know, it influenced me. It gave me some sort of an idea for a character. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I'm trying to incorporate to the work is to add people that you don't see that much in literature. Again, I'm speaking because I'm mostly working on the Israeli market and I know what there is around here. I'm always open
Uh-huh.
to offers from abroad if anybody wants to, but I don't see a lot of books with black people or with people who originate from Asia or people who has red hair. So I try to cooperate those type of people to the book so everybody will have some way of representation in children literature.
Yeah.
People who handicapped, people who has some sort of a skin condition, everybody or on those books that I do. Sometimes I get um, with taking the character into the book without nobody would say anything. And there were some times when people asked me, can you please change the color of the person? Can you please make this person look like that way? So I'm always trying. So this is my inspiration
Yeah.
as well. And of course, my beloved cat, who I raised for 17 years, is almost in every book I think that I ever published.
That's a good thing too. You always get your little tagline in there with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I think that's awesome, and I personally want to say thank you for trying to make your books so diverse. So that is something that is not just in your community, but it's the world around. And I think so often, we don't think about the impact that it has when a child or a young person will open a book and say, that person looks like me, or say, oh, look, there's someone here. That could completely change everything for them. So I think that's so great, and I appreciate so much that you take the time to do that, because not everybody would do that. Some people are afraid to use their platform. So thank you for including that, which I think is fantastic. Um, so
Thank
we've
you.
had a couple more people just kind of filter in, filter out. Sabrina Lawrence, who is an artist in her own right, she does incredible makeup. Chris Kennedy, Stephanie Michaels, another great makeup artist, is here. Scott, Neil, Catherine, Matt, Brian, Josh. We've got a lot of people coming in and out. So if in case anybody is missing or wondering what's going on, we're here with Yoad Shiran. I know I keep butchering your name. I'm gonna get it really great
No,
sometime.
that's okay. This is
But he is a fantastic illustrator and artist. Currently with us from Tel Aviv, so it's like really late there. So I really appreciate him being here. I have a feeling maybe your fiance is off camera, so I appreciate him being up late as well. And we're just asking any questions you have about being an illustrator and things like that. Valerie said she loves your flamingo in the background. She has a tall giraffe. And I happen to have a leopard on the other side of the camera, and then a cat on the other side of that. So I think we all like our animals, which is great. So Jess was talking about, she wants to know how to support you. And I'm not going to keep you all night long. I could seriously ask you 1,500 questions. But I was also wondering this too. So you talked about your books. By all means, please tell us, your books. You mentioned that we can get them through the publishers and the authors online. And for all of my English speakers here, I think you've illustrated one book in English, you said, and the rest are not in our native tongue, so they would be great picture books. You can still find them. Yeah, how can we support you? Jess said it best. I'd love to support your work. So what could we do to help kind of get you out there or to help support you in what you want to do?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, you're not butchering my name. That's okay, you say it correctly. My mother sometimes calls me by my brothers or my sisters or my pet dog's name, so that's okay. You're doing a terrific job. Supporting me. Well, first of all, thank you for the question and thank you for the will to support me. I would love for you just to talk about me. If you happens to be on a conversation, if you know somebody who needs an illustrator, if you know somebody who's interested, if you know somebody who is currently has a connection to some sort of a publisher in the US or anywhere else, you can always talk about me. You can always say that you saw this broadcast, and there will be a link to my Facebook page and website at the end of the show. And I would appreciate a like and a share if possible. And I think that would be, I guess, the best thing for me. Regarding the work themselves, most of the books are in Hebrew. There is one book which is called The Carpenter and the Mouse. I have it here. I'll show the cover of it. It's the Hebrew cover of the book, but it's called The Carpenter and the Mouse, digitally drawn. It sells in Amazon in Kindle version. If you want to buy, I saw it last time around September, so I know it's still around. And there will be another book coming out in the next few months, which will be in Arab. I don't know the language. This is kind of a new thing for me to illustrate a book without me knowing the entire story. So if anybody knows the language, then you can, of course, buy it. How you can buy it as a picture book? Well, you can always go to the website of the publisher and ask them if they will do shipping outside of the country. Maybe they will. And if you want to, you can always be in contact with me and I could help assist with the purchase itself. The books are in Hebrew. They are very short. I have these tons of books with me. All of them are different stories. Some of them are small poets, short poems, and some of them are short stories all combined together. Going from the books, this, by the way, are my nephews right here, and my cat's supposed to be over here somewhere. Most of these books are sold on the internet. I can put a link to the publishers and to the authors themselves to check. If you want to, you can of course buy it. I must say that regarding purchasing the books, aside from me spreading myself to the world, there is no financial stuff. I do not get any payment if you buy the book. I just get the payment for the paintings, and that's it. It's entirely up to the readers and the families and their friends to get the books and read and enjoy. And if you cannot read, look on the pictures, think of me, and and of course come visit Israel so you'll have a short Hebrew lesson so you know what those are about. And of course, the new books, which I already talked about with the translation to English, there will be several words in English, so maybe you will get the context. But I guess that I like and I share, and just a random talk with friends, family, and professionals would be the best.
Yeah. And that's a great way to say, because I see some other people, and Amber is watching, Key and Aaron are all just tuned in while you answered that. If anybody watching this show wants to publish their own children's book, or you need an illustrator, here you go. If you've got the storyline, then I think we've got somebody here who can do some drawing for you. So I'm really excited that you're here. Now I want to ask you too, Jonathan wanted to know, are there any well-known illustrators that inspire you?
Most days, I don't know if they're well known, but they're known to me, and they're known to a group of people who are following illustrator and animators and artists over the media. Then yes, there are a bunch of people that I take inspiration from. Starting off with Hayao Miyazaki, who was previously owned in the Ghibli studio in Japan, which amazed me first time that I saw his movies. There were like thoughts and ideas and wishes that I had in my mind that I saw on the screen without ever knowing the person, just sharing a true feeling and moment with another person and a whole team of animators. And needless to say that the type of drawings that I do are amazing, and the details and the small movements and small very subtle way of drawing, making and making a, a character without even knowing, for a person who doesn't have any idea in animation aside from it's enjoyable to watch. For me, when I studied, I knew how much hard work it takes, and at the time I thought as the most amazing that somebody was able to capture it, but really capturing by so this is what it's at the time and continue to who is part of for Cruz, who is very making dolls, a doll to a very realistic entirely to so I took inspired from him as well by the way that he work, the way he publish himself, because I love the way he does it, and I think of him as a very humble person that just through the media and together to watch, and yeah, this is one way of inspiration as well for me.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I had a thought when you were talking. I was looking back at what some people were saying. And when Jess was talking about her daughter and how she wanted to support you, I had the thought, and I wanted to ask you this question. Do you do commission work? So if somebody wanted to, um, like have, say for example, Jess wanted to make a portrait of her daughter, um, do you do commissioned pieces and send them out?
Yes, I do commission pieces. I'm not doing any commission pieces because I take under consideration what the person asks for me and how much time will it take and how much
Uh-huh.
effort will I need to do. Of course, where do I need to get this work for? I had few jobs for people who were about to get married, so I helped them with illustrations to their invitations or set the date sort of, or save the date sort of
Yeah.
events. I worked with public companies and government companies, providing them with illustrations. I work with magazines, and yeah, I work with individuals who need an illustration. I had one lovely client who tried to raise money to make her own children book come to life, and I helped her with illustrations to give an idea what the book would be look like. And yeah, I do one-to-one requests. Portraits, I'm afraid, are not my specialty. I can do hyper-realistic drawings, but I'm not doing those kind of jobs. Not because I don't want to. I just think that I'm not the right person to do it. I never really got the full time to make it a professional of mine in that way.
Yeah. And that's okay to know your strong suits.
Yeah.
I always say know your strengths and your lesser strengths. So I think that's important to know. So Key wanted to know, and we kind of talked about you typically will use colored pencils and things like that. But do you, excuse me, do you dabble in any other mediums aside from pen and paper?
Yes, as I said earlier, I took inspiration from Noel Cruz, the artist who repaints dolls. So I tried my strength in it. I'm not a professional, but I already did Sarah Jessica Parker and Bette Midler from Hocus Pocus. I
Uh,
loved how it would eventually um, came together. It looks nice. I'm not Noel Cruz, but I like it. Um, I also sculpt. I also fold papers. I do DIYs. Aside from any media, I cook, I bake. For me, it's an art, no less. Um,
Absolutely.
so when I decorate my apartment, I try to do it as artsy as I can do. The flamingo, for example, it's a garden flamingo that my friends pressured me to buy when I was in London about a year ago, a year and a half ago. I just strolled around on the airport with like a broken flamingo, and I repainted this flamingo to be looked like a bit more real because it had factory colors, nothing that I liked. Um,
Yeah.
so I take my art to wherever I go and wherever I can like collaborate it with, I do it. This is the only way I know how to operate in life. To take what I love and just put it wherever I
That's all
can.
right. Because then if everything in your and everything in your world is art, then I have a feeling that your world is very beautiful. And so I think it's okay. Everything we do in one way or another is art. And if we think of it that way, I think life becomes that much more enjoyable. So I love that perspective. Um, so, and I know that it's getting late for you. Like I said, I could talk to you all night long, but I won't. I won't keep you up. But I do want to let you know that Jonathan just commented and said, "Thank you so much for sharing your story tonight. I have three children's books that are in prototype mode: English, Spanish, and French. You have inspired me to continue towards publication. Blessings for continued success.
Thank you.
So, your
Thank you.
drawings are inspiring children, and your story is inspiring adults across the world. And I just personally want to say I've enjoyed. This is the first time we've ever interacted where I can like actually see you or hear you. But everything that you have ever posted on social media and all the time that I've been following you is a glimpse into that beautiful world. And you really are just this force. And you put love and joy and adventure out. And I just want to say, keep doing that. Don't stop. And hopefully, through this show, we'll have something come out of it. And if nothing else, a lot of people in the United States are going to learn that there's an amazing illustrator across the water. And if we need anything, we know who to call. That's for sure.
Thank you.
So I'll ask you this because I ask everybody as we're kind of wrapping up the show. First of all, is there anything that we did not talk about tonight that you want to make sure people know?
Well, I guess we covered most of the things. We basically talked about art the entire time, and I guess that with that topic you can go on and go on, and there nothing really an end to it. I guess that if anybody has another question, then they can, of course, comment me, message me. I will happily reply to them. There are a lot to talk about for myself and for the art, but I guess, and I hope there will be another times. I must say this was my first interview ever, and you were amazing, and I had lots of fun, and you're not keeping me that late. That's okay. As an illustrator, you work in crazy hours. I work from 9 to 5 and then go back home and work for the rest of the night most of the time. So I'm okay. And I had very much fun during this interview. I think you're amazing and you're doing really nice work. And you're putting yourself out there. You said in the beginning of the interview that you're not really arty, you just know how to draw an eye, but as you concluded it now, everything that we do is an art, so I guess you're doing more than you think you're doing, and that's amazing as well.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks. I think it's important that we all have that way to contribute to a beautiful world, and I may not be able to draw, or I can't paint, but I sure as heck can appreciate some beautiful art, and I sure can try to have a good time while we're doing it. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I want to say too to everybody that made it to the end or who's fast forwarded to the end of the show on a recording, the beginning of the show, you kind of got gypped a little bit because it was not connecting. So you missed the whole intro music and all the fun stuff. So I guess that means we'll have to have you back on the show at some point. Maybe we'll have you and your fiance both on the show, or maybe I'll learn more about his show and have him on. But I really hope that you can come back and hang out with us again on the show because you're really great.
Most definitely, I would be happy to come back and would be happy to present you with my gorgeous fiance, and whenever and whatever, you can count on me. For real this time, not with the last time that we tried to yeah, no, but yeah, I would be happy.
Yeah, that's all right. Sometimes the best things in life take a couple of tries to get it right. And so it's just taken a couple of times, but here we are, and we've gotten to hang out and tell your story, and I appreciate you sharing that. The other thing that I always ask is if you just had 15 seconds to say one inspirational thing or one positive thing to the world, and I think you've already said a lot of it, but I'm going to ask you again. If you had 15 seconds to say something inspirational or encouraging to the world, what would that be?
Well, I guess that each day you're doing something that you never thought that you will be able to do. And everybody does it, and everybody at the end of the day can think for themselves that they done something amazing today. Maybe it was nothing that influential, but they did it despite the thought they didn't have the strength or the knowledge or whatever they needed to do to make it through, but eventually they did it, even if it's making through another day, I guess.
Yes, that's awesome. And it's so important to remember that every day we make it through, we've done something amazing. So that's your final thought. And I'm going to close tonight's show with a final thought that I share every single week. It's a little mantra that I have for myself and for everybody who's watching. And it goes like this: from dreams to goals, and goals to reality. Because dreams are for those who are sleeping. If you're alive and awake, show and learning about Yoad and his illustrations, that means you're alive and awake enough to set goals and then work towards those goals. Because goals are attainable. If you work towards them, eventually, it might take some time and a lot of hard work, but those goals will become your reality. Your reality is yours and yours alone. There's nobody else in the entire world that can make it for you. And work hard and then bask in the reality that you've created. And then, of course, come back every Thursday night and watch the Jason Elliott show and tell us all about it. And if you ever want to be on the show, or if you know somebody who should be on the show, just send them my way. But otherwise, you're doing great things, and keep it up. So that's that. Thank you so much. Yoad will be tagged in the description of this video, and I'll also go back and edit it because it blipped out of the first one. I'll edit the description to also include his illustrators page. Make sure that you go like his page, make sure that you follow it, and if you're feeling extra generous, just share this video or share his page and let people know that there's this illustrator who is great and wants to make the world a better place. So we'll have all of that in there, and then in the comments below, Yoad will put in any information, any links, any other social media that he has, and by all means, please feel free to get in touch with this guy and give him some love. And if you have more questions, just type them in the comments below, and as they come up, we'll make sure they're answered for now until eternity. So that's about that. Thank you, Yoad, for being here. Again,
thank you for inviting me.
Being late might be fine for you, but if I was awake at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'd be dead. You look good for being up for 24 hours. But that's that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So, the most challenging part, absolutely. The most challenging part of the night is you got to give me a high five before we sign off, okay? So I'm gonna sit up here.
We try to do it.
Our screen there you go.
I have a really small hand compared.
Here, I'll back up a little bit. There we go. That's a high five. That'll count. All right.
We're just pushing the wall.
Have a wonderful night. Yeah, I know. It's worth a try. It's artistic. That's what it is.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. I'm going to go buy myself a microphone now.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful night, a great weekend, and I'll see everybody next week. Goodbye.
Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you.
Bye.